welcome everybody to the Old Colony MPO meeting of May 21st. I will read the non-discrimination and accessibility statements, and I will do a roll call with Charlie. So, accessibility statement in Title 6 non-discrimination statement. This means accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. If you would like this accommodation, please contact Maury Waldron at 508-583-1833. And then the notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is included on this meeting's agenda and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website at https://Old Colony LDCOLONYPLANNING.org/ or you can contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you, everybody. All right, Charlie, we ready to do the roll?
Yes. Steve Wolfel.
Steve Wolfel, representing Secretary and CEO of MassDOT, Monica Tibbetts here.
Thank you. Sean Handy. Sean, are you representing MassDOT District 5 and Administrator Gulliver? He might be having audio trouble. John Messia, Brockton.
John Messia, representing Mayor Sullivan, City of Brockton.
Great, thank you. Lee Hartman, Plymouth.
Lee Hartman, representing Town of Plymouth, new chairman to be designated tonight.
Great, thank you. Dan Salvucci, Whitman.
Present.
Thank you. Mike Lambert, Bat.
Present.
Becky Coletta, Old Colony Planning Council.
Present.
Thank you. And I would just want to circle back. Is there a MassDOT highway representative for Jonathan Gulliver? Don't hear a response, but we have a quorum nonetheless.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Next item agenda is agenda item 2, public
Hi,
comments.
Stephen.
Oh,
Sorry,
wait.
just want to note that FTA regional.
Sorry, Chair, if I may, I forgot to call the ex officio members.
That's fine. Go ahead, Charlie.
Joint Transportation Committee, Noreen O'Toole. Federal Highway Administration,
Joshua
Joyce
Barber
Singh.
here.
Thank you.
Joshua Barber with Federal Highway Administration, Massachusetts Division Office.
Thank you, Josh. And Federal Transit Administration, Peter Butler.
Yep, Kirsty Hostetter here with Region 1.
Great, thank you.
And Sean just put something in the chat that he is representing Administrator Gulliver, so I must be having audio issues. All right, move on to agenda item 2. It's public comments. Any members of the public like to address the MPO today? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 3, which are the minutes of April 16th for the Old Colony MPO. Can I get a motion, a second, to approve the minutes?
I'll motion Dan Salvucci.
I'll
Lee
second
Hartman,
Becky
second.
Coletta.
All right. Any changes or comments on the minutes? Seeing none. Charlie, want to read the roll?
Yes, Steve Wolfel,
Yes.
Sean Handy. If you have an audio, if you could just put the vote in the chat. John Messia,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Michael Perez, Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. And Sean did log yes, Charlie, just so you know in the chat.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Move on to agenda item 4, which is the update from Brockton Area Transit Authority. Michael, take it away.
Thank you very much, Chair. Not too much to report. Our ridership continues to be strong, benefiting from our fare-free program that will be running through July. We're now seeing 10-year highs in terms of ridership, which is great to see. We also are happy to announce awards from MassDOT to help support our paratransit system, as well as the Council on Aging departments that we work with to provide vehicles for them, as well as a discretionary grant that will help expand our microtransit service and provide subsidized Uber, Lyft, and taxi trips to our second and third shift workers. So thank you very much to MassDOT for that.
All right, any questions for Michael? Thanks, Michael. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the updates from Gatra. Gatra, I believe, Marilyn, you're here. You want to take it away?
I am here, thank you. We are also continuing to see ridership increases, although we have had to pause our fixed route Sunday service temporarily while we work through some labor issues. We also were fortunate enough to get some MassDOT grants, both to help with our vehicles, and also we are very excited to be partnering with SRTA and BAT to provide some interconnectivity between the 3 transit authorities. So we can hopefully use this funding to figure out what is the best frequency for us to be connecting the 3 transit authorities. And that is the report from Gatra.
All right, thanks, Marilyn. Anyone have any questions for Mary Ellen? All right, seeing none, we'll move to agenda item 6, which is the federal fiscal year 2024 to 2028. Old Colony tip adjustments amendments item. Bill, I think we have some action, so why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if you recall at the last MPO meeting, we had an amendment number 3 that went out to a public review and comment period. This amendment was to cover a couple items, so all of which are in FFY 2024. So first one was the Brockton projects, Plymouth Street at Center Street. That project was unable to meet advertisement, unfortunately, this year. So we had to amend that out of the 2024 element, and then into that will move to FFY 2025. And then if you want to scroll down a little bit, Sean. And then so in addition to that project not meeting advertising, we did have a couple of projects with cost increases this year. So as typically happens this time of year. So in Brockton, Route 123 at Carey and Lyman Street project, that project went up in price about $823,000, which triggered an amendment requirement. And then likewise in the town of Plimpton, the bridge replacement, the Winnetoxet Road Bridge over the Winnetoxet River, then went up in price about $1 million. So as I said, this went out for public review and comment period at our last MPO meeting. That public review, notice of public review was advertised in the Brockton Enterprise and Patriot Ledger, as well as directly mailed to our contact database. If you want to go to the next page, Sean. So this just summarizes the results of the comment period. Pretty non-substantial. We did report on it to our board of directors last month. They approved it as presented. And similarly, earlier this month, we presented to the Joint Transportation Committee, and likewise, they approved it as submitted. And that sums up the results of the public review and comment period. So at this time, I would ask this group to consider this.
All right.
This for endorsement.
All right, can I get a motion, a second, to endorse this amendment as detailed by Bill?
I'll make that motion, Dan from Whitman.
I'll second it.
All right, any questions? All right, seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Sean Handy, John Messiah,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Michael Perez, Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
And I see Sean Handy voted yes in the chat. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bill. We'll move on to agenda item 8, which is consider potential endorsement of the federal fiscal year 2025 to 2029 tip. Bill, this is you again. Please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the tip went out for a public review and comment period. Similarly, following the last MPO meeting. So as you recall, this tip had, one of, not actually, it was the most robust, tip we've had to date, including $234 million in projects, set, 17 highway projects and 6 bridge projects. And then we also includes over $62 million in transit projects, and that includes the electrification of the Brockton area transit system, which over the life of this plan will become nearly fully electrified, which is pretty exciting news, especially for air quality in the region. Let's skip to the next page, Sean. So I think most people on this board are familiar with what's in this tip, so I won't go through all these projects individually, but as Sean will kind of scroll through this page by page. If you have any questions on any of these, I'll answer them. But
All right.
and then
So,
I'm sorry.
sorry, no, go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, we did go with the public review and comment period. If you want to skip to the matrix, Sean, that just summarizes that. So this is summarizes the results of the public review and comment period. Office of Transportation Planning, MassDOT, they submitted the most comprehensive comments, as they do every year. They go through a checklist, and it's really helpful. And I'll show that checklist in a moment. Those were the most substantial comments. We did receive a comment from Town of Stoughton. That was a typographical in nature. One of the projects was listed as not programmed, where it is in fact programmed. So we made that correction and assured the Town of Stoughton that their project is programmed. We presented to the Old Colony Planning Council Board of Directors. They approved as presented. Next page. And then similarly, earlier this month, to the Joint Transportation Committee, and they approved as submitted, or as presented. And finally, if you just want to go to the next page. So this shows the checklist that was submitted by the Office of Transportation Planning. There were several comments that they found that they noted. I won't go through all of them, but the highlights of them were so among other things, they asked for clarification on greenhouse gas emissions. In some cases, rather than quantifying those emissions, we opted to go with qualitative statement saying that they reduce GHG, for example. So like the project in the ramp project, for example, on the Duxbury Kingston line, Route 38, Route 3. At this point, that hasn't completed ice. We don't know if that's going to be traffic signal roundabout that would have substantial differences in GHG emissions, depending on which traffic control they go with. So at this time, things like that's really difficult to quantify GHG emissions. So we opted to go with the qualitative statements, and that it will either way, it's going to have substantial reduction in GHG emissions. So we did that. They noted that some of the tables should be updated to include the most recent cost adjustments to these projects, as well as reflect the regional target and differences between what's programmed and the regional target. So that was updated. So we went through this line by line and made these corrections as appropriate. So if there aren't any questions at this time, I'd ask the board to consider endorsement.
All right, can I get a motion and a second to endorse the federal fiscal year 25 to 29 tip as detailed in full by Bill?
I'll make that motion, Dan.
Lee Hartman, second.
All right, any
Right,
questions for Bill? All right, seeing none. Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Sean Handy, John Messiah,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta,
Yes.
and Sean Handy voted affirmative in the chat. Motion carries.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bill, for the last two items. We'll now move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 8, which is review and potential release for public review, the draft federal fiscal year 2025 Unified Plan of Work Program. And I believe this is you, Charlie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the draft 2025 Unified Planning Work Program is ready in form, and it presents our draft scope of work and budget for the upcoming federal fiscal year for the transportation group. There are multiple funding sources for this program, including Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, MassDOT, Brockton Area Transit. And I note that in addition to our traditional funding sources, if you will, there's the Safe Streets for All continuation of that project. OCPC was a recipient of a grant award through that program to develop an action plan. So the remaining 8 months of that contract is included within this UPWP. So on your next slide is our menu of tasks and what's actually included in the UPWP. And in the front section in the introduction, there's a discussion of national planning factors and how it relates to the planning tasks. There's a Title VI notice, there's a description of the funding sources, and there's a description of administrative modification and adjustment procedures. And last but not least, we do a multi-year look back of projects included within the UPWP and how that transcends across the region. So we have a geographic and equity analysis with some demographic data associated with that. And then from there, it's divided into 4 main tasks. Task 1000, which is management and support of the planning process. And as you can see, there are several subtasks within that, including our task for 3C program support. 3C stands for continuing cooperative and comprehensive planning process. As you recall, about a year ago, we underwent a federal transportation planning certification review. So post-review, we're in the process now of implementing an action plan to address any recommendations that were an outcome of that certification review. But as you can see, rounding out task 1000, we see traditional work such as development of the Unified Planning Work Program, implementation of our public participation program. And you just heard a presentation from Bill. There's a task on developing the new TIP for the next 5 years. And then rounding this out, we have a task on Title VI and environmental justice. Task 2000 is our data reconnaissance, acquisition, and analysis activities. And these actually go into and support all of our planning tasks. So there's a task on demographics and land use inventory. There's our traffic count program and our drone program under subtask 2200. Subtask 2300 is system planning and resource activity. That's our professional development task. We have operation of our geographic information system. And then last but not least, we have operation of our management systems. And this is trifold in terms of congestion management process, pavement management system, and safety management system. And this subtask 2500 is rounded out by the operation of our local travel demand model, which is led by Ko Chung Lee of our staff. And most recently, we sent in a user agreement to interact and gain access to the CTPS Travel Demand Model 23. So we're looking forward to the cross-border collaboration and sharing of resources. Next slide. Task 3000, that's our short range and long range transportation planning activities. And as you can see in here, the first 2 are traditional tasks such as regional multimodal transportation planning and studies. That's essentially our vulnerable road user bike ped planning task. Next up is our local highway technical assistance program. That's where we respond to community requests to look at intersections and areas in terms of safety or mobility. And it's a on-call service, and Bill McNulty is our project manager on that. The next 3 tasks are discrete and new to this UPWP, and this is where we have traditionally corridor studies The first is Route 28 in the Avon corridor study. The second being Route 104 corridor study in Bridgewater. And last but not least, there's the Route 3A corridor study in the town of Plymouth. And as mentioned earlier, this is where the Safe Streets for All action plan support nests within the UPWP. And last but not least, it's important to our planning process and to implement a system that's performance-based, as this is where we embrace and undertake the different PM1, PM2, PM3, and transit performance measures. And one of the things we're keeping tabs on is the more recent greenhouse gas targets and performance measures. Task 4000, that's where we have our transit planning activities, and you can see there's a local transit technical assistance task, and this is rounded out with 4200 with projects for Brockton area transit. And then in the appendices, we have different support documentation, such as the actual endorsement, which is yet to be had, but we have the self-certification and compliance statement. Then we have a full page on the budget. We have glossary of terms, and then we will catalog any public review comments received during the public review period. So that's a quick overview, and we're here to, of course, entertain any discussion and questions that the panel might have. And upon successful answering of those questions, we would request a release to a public review and comment period.
All right. Thanks, Charlie. Does anyone have any questions for Charlie?
One question, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sean.
That was the question, that's it.
Oh, all right. Oh, I thought you were gonna like finally get on, and the only person that gets a question the whole time is Charlie. Oh well. All right. So with that, can I get a motion a second to approve to send this out for public release?
Yeah, so moved, Dan Salvucci. That was funny.
Sean, you should second this since you did that.
I know it.
I second the motion.
All right, there you go. All right, last call. Any questions for Charlie? Seeing none, Charlie, please read the roll.
Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Sean Handy,
Yes.
John Messia,
Yes.
Lee Hartman, Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Charlie. We'll move on to agenda item 9, which is an update on the Old Colony Safe Streets for All Regional Action Plan. And I believe this is Bill. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Bill.
So just to give an update where we are with this. So if you recall, Old Colony Planning Council received a $400,000 grant to develop a regional Vision Zero plan through the Safe Streets for All bipartisan infrastructure law discretionary grant program. So that included that broke down to $320,000 from the Federal Highway Administration and $80,000 from MassDOT. Earlier this year we contracted with Beta Group to develop this plan. So right now we're in the process of working with them. They've done a lot of background work already. They've developed a regional high injury network and a data dashboard. So it's what they've done so far is great. We're in the process of finalizing Vision Zero action committee. So that'll be a regional advisory committee to this plan. It includes representatives from all 17 municipalities in our region, as well as groups like Mass Bike and Walk Massachusetts, interest groups like that. So we'll be kicking that off. There'll be at least 2 meetings of that committee. One to give them an update on the findings so far, and then towards the latter half of this plan development to present on implementation plans, how communities can go forward and initiate implementation plans. One thing, so what we're working right now specifically is we want to make sure that all 17 communities are represented in this plan, that they have equal opportunity to apply for this either an implementation grant or a planning and demonstration grant in their community. So finding a way to go beyond the regional high injury network, because there are communities, the more rural communities that just aren't going to show up as high priorities in the region in a data-driven process. So we'll gonna work with those municipalities to a more localized approach, just to make sure that those the highest priorities in those communities are also represented. So that's where we stand. So I said that there'll be at least 2 meetings of that VZAC committee. There'll also be regular updates to the Joint Transportation Committee. In fact, and they'll be coming to our JTC in a couple of weeks to provide an update. And at some point, I imagine they're going to come to this body as well to provide an update. So as well to our board of directors. So that's an update on with that. Happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Anyone have any questions of Bill?
Yes, Bill, I do. Dan Salvucci from
Yep.
Whitman.
Go ahead, Dan.
We have issues in like our town with the new like motorized scooters, motorized skateboards, motorized bicycles. We find a lot of kids using them in the park and the dirt trails and digging them up. But that's kids are kids. We're dealing with that locally. But I'm wondering, as far as safe streets are concerned, with all these motorized items, I mean, is there an issue in any other town as far as kids using the motorized bicycles, will say in the middle of the street, like it's a motorcycle, but it isn't, it's not registered, or motorized skateboards? It's just amazing how many I'm seeing around town now.
Yeah, not that I know of. I haven't seen any data indicating that so far, but I'll bring that to beta and we'll take a look at that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Bill.
All right. Any other questions for Bill? All right. I don't see any. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is a 10, which is administrative matters, other business, and date and time of next meeting. Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we have a couple items here for the panel and our guests. So the first is a reminder that the Beyond Mobility, which is MassDOT's next statewide long-range transportation plan, is currently out for a public review and comment period. And here are some links in our staff report where you can access the plan, and note that the comments on this plan comment period ends on May 31st. Next slide. Next slide. So here's a grant opportunity from the Mass Office on Disability. Applications are open from May 1st to June 14th. And this is a great resource for communities to apply for grants on ADA transition plans and or actual projects. So next slide. So recently MassDOT launched a new online grant portal entitled Grant Central. And part of this was to move some of the projects and programs out of the MAP-IT tool, the Massachusetts Project Information Tool, and create a separate grant portal. So you'll find in the Grant Central items such as Chapter 90 program, local bottleneck program, complete streets, shared streets and spaces. So it's really a streamlined process, and there's a lot of information there already. And there's been multiple training sessions on this. So, we look forward to as it's implemented. So next slide. So speaking of MAP-IT, anybody interested in doing transportation improvement program projects? Good news here is through the UMass Transportation Center, there are more sessions on version 5.0 of this, and they are on June 4th, 6th, and the 20th at 10 a.m. and there's no cost to attend these virtual training sessions. Next slide. Hey, and anybody interested in pursuing a federal discretionary grant, please check out this great opportunity. The Federal Funds and Infrastructure Office is the lead agency within the Healy Driscoll administration, implementing a whole government approach to being competitive with other states and pursuing these federal grants through the bipartisan infrastructure law. And there's a monthly federal funds partnership meeting, and the next one is on May 28th at 2 p.m. And you can register in advance for this meeting and series, and they will send out a newsletter and different grant resources and opportunities well in advance. And at the most recent meeting, just to team up with to talk that Bill McNulty did on early on Safe Streets for All. There was a session on Safe Streets for All program, demonstration grants, implementation grants, and how communities can pursue these things and their interrelatedness to the development of regional action plans. So that was a great session, and encourage everyone to attend these meetings. Next slide. Next slide. And this is a calendar of upcoming meeting dates. I note that our next meeting is scheduled for June 18th, 10 a.m. And we request the MPO to hold that date, as there are still certification documents to review and endorse. But that concludes our staff updates for the MPO.
All right, anyone have any questions for Charlie? All right, and just to reiterate what Charlie said, we do have the UPWP coming up on next month, so try to, we need a quorum, so please try to make it and put this on your calendar. And with that, can I get a motion, a second to adjourn, please?
So move. Second, Whitman.
What? Everyone's fighting to get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. All right, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 All right, thanks everyone. Stay safe.
Aye.
It's finally going to be warm out, and everyone have a good Memorial Day weekend. We'll see you next month.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.